This is the banjo flat picking workshop this afternoon, talking about the banjo, the way it's played with the flat pick, in a couple of different members of the banjo family and different styles. Maybe talk a little bit about how they relate to five-string banjo, from which these four-string banjos stem originally, and show some crossovers between them. We can take some five-string tunes and work them up on flat picking banjos, and talk about the tunings on the flat picking banjos. My name is Lowell Schreier. There's two of us banjo players that are going to be talking about this. The other one is Drew Freckman. He'll be coming in a little while. My job is going to be to explain the different four-string flat picking banjos to get us going. To know that we figure our granddaddy of the banjo family in America is the five-string banjo, which most of us here play to some extent. And in five-string banjo, you've got the bluegrass, and you've got the older classic style and the minstrel style banjo. Actually, to talk about picking banjo, nowadays we do it with what they call a plectrum or a pick, but back in the minstrel days, after they had done some down picking for a while in the 1840 minstrel shows, Tom Briggs came along in the late 1840s, about 1848, and he had something he put on his finger. He called it a thimble. In essence, it was a pick. So that would really be figured the start of use of the flat pick on a banjo. Of course, he did it on the five-string banjo. You see that Tom Briggs jig there? If you follow along that. He used it on his Tom Briggs jig. Now, I don't have one of these old-time minstrel thimbles, but it would be a way of using a pick on a banjo, something that's other than just your fingers. So that was all down-style playing. There were no down and ups like we have with the later picks, and the up equivalent would have been taken care of by the thumb. Basic early way of using a pick on a banjo, with the old minstrel thimble as being an artificial means of producing a tone on the banjo. Later, of course, they went into using flat picks. Most of us are familiar with the history of the banjo, of its coming through the minstrel period and the classic period of banjo. And then around 1900, there was a trend in vaudeville, probably because they had large crowds in these theaters, had a little difficulty being heard by finger style, bare finger style playing on the five-string banjo. And some of these fellows in vaudeville started using flat picks. Most of them had background as mandolin players. One of our first plectrum players, we could call him, was Dan Polt, Kansas City. He was playing with a flat pick as early as 1880. He was a mandolinist originally, took up five-string banjo, but he played it with a flat pick. In essence, making that five-string a plectrum banjo. As you got into the early 1900s, the thumb string kept getting in the way of these pick players, and eventually the companies started manufacturing the plectrum banjos by dropping off the thumb string and just making it a straight neck and providing a four-string banjo. Now, you know you're tuning on the five-string banjo. I'll put that away and pull out the plectrum banjo. Now here, after they decapitated the thumb string, is what's left. It's The plectrum banjo, essentially the same as the 5-string banjo, but missing that thumb string. The tuning, basic tuning would be a G, B, D on the 3 main strings. On the bass, on the plectrum, more commonly use the C bass rather than the D bass that you do in bluegrass playing nowadays. But back in the period we're talking about, the 1880s, 1890s, your configuration generally would have been with a C bass on the 5-string banjo, so it was a real natural progression going from the 5-string banjo with the C bass on it to the plectrum banjo with the C bass on it. And then instead of using our finger style playing, the flat pick came along and started whamming away at the banjo, and something that for the unamplified vaudeville halls provided what some of these fellows need. They weren't that strong pickers with the bare fingers on gut strings, but you change that over to wire strings and add a flat pick, and that gave them a lot of the power that they needed in those old-time halls. You do pink chanticleer? No. Okay. It's a C minor. I'll do it myself if you recognize it. Yeah. I'm going to do a few things here. Gary's going to help me out with some rhythm occasionally on tunes he does. We come from different parts of the country, and get together once in a while places like this here. The plectrum banjo went into recording before World War I. We already had the banjo being recorded as played by Wes Ostman and Fred Van Epps in ragtime in the 1890s. And as you got to the period just before World War I, when the plectrum banjo style was starting to catch on, you had recordings made by a fellow named the name of Bert Earl. He was an American, but he did most of his recording in England. One of the tunes he did, I believe this was from 1912, England, was called King Chanticleer. It's one of these San Francisco style can-can numbers. Sample of your early plectrum style playing, the kind of tunes that they would have done on plectrum banjo. And then the plectrum banjo then was our 4-string banjo converted from a 5-string, but at the same time another style of 4-string playing was growing up, and this related actually more to mandolin playing. It's the other 4-string instrument I've got here. In the 1880s and also 90s again, the mandolin and the 5-string banjo are closely related in the little string combination, the string ensembles in college mandolin and banjo clubs, community mandolin and banjo clubs. And it seemed like there was again some crossover, mandolin players with their picks getting interested in maybe sounding a little bit like a banjo player. First, the manufacturers came over with a cross between a mandolin and a banjo called a mandolin banjo, usually in 8 strings. Eventually thinned down to 4 strings, and it had the pitch of the mandolin. But with those short strings on there, you really didn't sound a whole lot like a banjo. So the manufacturers and also some of the mandolin players had asked for this in customizing around 1908 for a banjo with sort of mandolin tuning in fifths, and it came out as the tenor banjo. Here you've got the longer neck, but it's tuned in fifths like the mandolin, but it's got the deeper tone to it, which you'd associate more with the banjo. So this gave mandolin players a way to use their mandolin style fingering, but still pass off as banjo players if work was tight for mandolin players. And so you had two styles of 4-string playing developing before World War I. The plectrum banjo descended from the 5-string, and then the tenor banjo descended actually more from the mandolin with a crossover to the 5-string banjo. Of course, it now is tuned C, G, D, and A, which would be like a mandola if you're a mandolin player. Here's a kind of a tune that might have been playing at the turn of the century on a banjo like this. That shows a little bit of how we got wound up with some 4-string banjos here, played with the flat pick. Then as the years went by, composers started to write for the tenor banjo, specifically for that instrument. Earlier, the music banjoists had been playing was either written for the 5-string banjo or taken from popular piano sheet music and adapted to the banjo. But eventually you had composers coming along writing music especially for these 4-string instruments as well as for the 5-string banjo, which we had earlier. I'm going to go back to the plectrum because when you go out on gigs with these things, you usually wind up not always knowing who you're going to wind up with on the job. You improvise, trade choruses back and forth. I've done some work on the Delta Queen and the Mississippi Queen boats, and usually that's the way it works there. You're teamed up with a piano player, and you try to figure out what everybody knows, and then just trade choruses back and forth. What did I do? It's working C for you, right? Yeah. job working with a plectrum banjo. That's the kind of stuff you wind up doing most of the time, is trading chords. Not so much routine, it's just hope you get teamed up with a good jazz player and play that style. Now, Drew Freck, who's come in since we started, works a lot with Gary on piano, so I'm going to move over and let them do some of the special routines that they worked up over the years as a team that's worked up in the Rochester area for some time. So I'll get out of the way and let Drew Freck tell you a little more about the four-string banjos and give you a real good sampling of how it's played.
When did you say the steel strings came along?
They had been using steel strings already in the 1890s. The gut string was still the more common string, but you saw a crossover already going to steel strings in the 1890s, partly because of the volume problems in the theaters, going after more power. Now the purists in the five-string classic style of that period thought this was terrible, that you're abandoning gut strings and going to wire strings, but the fellows who played in vaudeville knew how to make their living, and they did what they had to do to pay the bills. Here's the group.
Lowell said it all. Okay, why don't we play a little bit of plectrum banjo. I tend to use the plectrum a little more in the perhaps smoother songs, perhaps maybe songs that I'd be singing, and maybe songs that remind me a little bit more of closer harmony, such as this one.
have much of a voice. Been fighting off some bad cold for the last 3 days.
I guess not.
Help me with your kisses. Help me with your heart. Let our hearts meet. Let our hearts beat. Good love songs we're sharing. We're sharing. Whisper that you're mine, dear. Tell me we'll never part. Oh, tell me with those great kisses. And I'll tell you with my heart. Tell me with your kisses. Tell me with your heart. Let our hearts meet. Let our hearts beat. To love songs we're sharing. We're sharing. Whisper that you're mine, dear. Tell me we'll never part. Oh, tell me with those tender, tender kisses. And I'll tell you with my heart.
Gary Weber. One of the things I think I enjoy most about playing, not only the 5-string banjo, but the tenor and plectrum as well, is making the other person sound good. I think there's a lot can be done in banjo accompaniments that can be inventive, and it can, in some ways, be even more challenging than just playing a straight-ahead solo. Seeing what you can fit in at the right spot, getting the volume right, getting the quality of the sound right to go with what you want to do. Should we do a hot one? Sure. You have any hot ones? instant arrangements here. You want to plectrum on that one?
That doesn't matter. Well, going back a little into the early years of pick banjo playing, ragtime was being played on the five-string banjo by Fred Van Epps and Mess Osman. And of course, ragtime also adapted to the plectrum banjo, played with the pick. But tunes we're doing here now, the kind of things you do on a job stage, shakies, the commercial kind of things. And one of the commercial style of rags that has seemed to endure over the years is one that goes right along with these eating places. It's called the dill pickles rag. I was working on the Delta Queen steamboat a few years ago on the river. Came to a spot where they really had a hole in the evening's entertainment. And he said, well, banjo player, why don't you do a banjo show? And pulling that much time on a banjo, I figured I better have something that's really appropriate to the riverboat setting here. So what I did was dig back into my memory. I remember that great book that was written about showboats and converted into a musical on Broadway and eventually into a movie musical, a movie showboat. And right there on the river, going down the Mississippi River near St. Louis, where the Goldenrod showboat is located, that was actually the inspiration for the movie Showboat, that old boat. I worked up this medley of tunes from Showboat one afternoon, and then I tried it out that night, and it goes something like this.
number of instruments that have relation to what we now know as the banjo, and a couple of instruments that are what we now know as the banjo, and talk about how the individual musicians play what they play, why they play it, and you know, just like their histories. I should say that most of what you'll see, this can only be done by professionals. Do not, I repeat, do not try this at home. Some of these instruments can go off in your hands. So we're going to start off with Jody Stecker, and Jody is playing a sarod, not a sarod. The name is sarod, and when he finishes tuning, you should all be home by then. He'll tell us something a little bit about. You want to?
Okay. This sarod is from India. It's played in North India, and I call it a banjo, all right, because it's got a skin head on it, a goat skin head. It has 4 melody strings, and then it has a high drone up the top, halfway up, except the drone is doubled, and then 1 octave lower. All the other strings are tuned according to the notes of the music that you're going to play at any particular time. I think what I'll do is play for a short time, and a short time for this means 10 minutes. But usually 20 minutes to an hour or an hour and a half is a typical recital. But with many really good musicians, you have to hear. So I'll play 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes. And then you'll probably have a lot of questions and talk then. Pick's made of coconut shell. I have 3 of them that I brought. I could show you if you want to see their different weights. Some are round or some are pointy. Polished coconut shell. The body is made of wood. It's hollow. The neck is hollow. The brass bell has a hole. It's a hole in the neck, and it shapes the sound. Also acts as a balance. Without the bell, it tends to fly up a bit. String's wearing a groove in my nail, so I'm just repairing it now. In a hot climate, you lubricate your nails with coconut oil, which stays fluid. In a colder climate, it tends to congeal, and coconut oil is not much good. I usually use fari grease or natural occurring hair oil. Encapsulation of a long performance that would be, each of those sections that got faster and faster would last a much longer time. But those are some of the sounds that the sarod makes. If time allows, I'll put it in another tuning and you'll hear it make quite a different mood.
What is the, Gerald, what is the usual combination of instruments that would play with the sarod?
Well, it might be accompanied by a small drone instrument that's called a tanpura. It has 4, sometimes 5 strings, and it just gives these tones, just like that in the background. Then it's accompanied by 2 drums, a set of hand drums called tabla. They would sit off to one side, and the tabla players are real virtuosos. They play. The patterns that the drum plays is very much like a bluegrass banjo. It's all combinations of 3s and 2s, and it has it even has one high pingy sound that's a lot like the 5th string of a banjo. That would be it. Sometimes it might be in duet with another string instrument like a sitar.
But not another sarod.
I've heard it.
You have?
I've heard it in
Well,
playing in octaves. It's very beautiful. I've heard Ali Akbar Khan play with his son Ashish. But typically it's a solo instrument.
Is this a new instrument, this one, or is this a...
1970?
So it's got some of the old elements. It still has friction pegs. They haven't changed that. But a metal fingerboard.
In this particular, it's been like this since, oh, probably 1930s or something like that. And it came into India from Central Asia, from like Afghanistan and north of there, where it was a very simple instrument, strung with gut strings, much smaller. And it was an army instrument, it was a military instrument. There'd be whole contingents marching and playing the instrument.
Wouldn't work.
Well,
Put them on flatbed trucks.
they conquered India. It worked. And then when it got to India, it became Indianized. You know, the instrument became a lot more sophisticated and developed in a number of ways. Yeah, it was wood neck and sheep or goatskin head, but much smaller.
So maybe you'll retune it and maybe do something a little later? Or are you going to retune it early?
I don't want to take up too much time.
Okay, let's. Okay.
Go to someone
Why
else.
don't we? We'll come back to the subcontinent. Ruggiero, would you? At the end, on the end, we have Ruggiero Santos, who is from Brazil, and Ruggiero is. This is a good example of. There has been for a number of years a very rich tradition of adapting Western art music, or classical music, for the five-string. At around the turn of the century, when classic banjo started to really expand, the repertoire, aside from music that was written for it, the repertoire started to include art music. In fact, one of the best-known recordings of banjoist Fred Van Epps was his recording, if you're ready for this, of the William Tell Overture on the five-string. And it's, to this day, scares most people who listen to it for all the right reasons. But what Ruggiero does is he does transcriptions of. Are you going to play anything of the Bach two-part? Are you doing mostly Bach transcriptions?
Yes, most of them are.
Do you have a microphone over there? Thank you. What a good neighbor.
I've working in two and three-part inventions. Two voices for one voice for each banjo, and the three-part inventions, three banjos. I've worked out on this book, and now I've getting pieces from Domenico Scarlatti too, because the sound of banjo is very similar to the harpsichord. So, and not only the classical period, I've been trying to get pieces from romantic period like Chopin, Mendelssohn, Schubert.
What's interesting about what Ruggiero is doing, and if you think about in terms of the technical history, the structure of the harpsichord, the way it works, unlike a piano, is the strings are not struck by a hammer, as we now know as the piano, but they were actually plucked by a little leather hook. So when you push the key down, it would pluck the string. So in essence, what we're really looking at is a transcription from one plucked instrument to another. And the quality of that sound is remarkably consistent. Ruggiero, would you like to play?
Yeah, for sure.
Great.
I'm going to play that piece I played yesterday, the Symphony of Cantata number 29. I've transcribed it for 5 banjos and 2 basses, but I'm going to play the lead.
Jerry, can we talk about that for a second? That transcription, that covers off the original two-part invention. That's what the right hand is doing? Or is that a transcription of what both hands are doing on the harpsichord? So when you do transcription, is it for both hands, or do you, when you transcribe, this is what the entire instrument is doing?
No. There are, for example, 3 voices on the piano part. The second voice ranges from time to time from the right and left hand.
Okay.
I separate the voices, all the voices, and put one voice for each banjo.
I see. So in essence, how many banjos would you need to have in order to have the full arrangement of the invention?
The two-part inventions, or 2 banjos.
You need 2 banjos,
2 banjos.
one for each invention.
Yeah, the 3-part inventions, 3 banjos. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? You should feel free.
Do you play any music from your homeland?
Brazil, yes, yeah. Not something like a samba. I play a composition from a composer called Otto Saleiro. He's not well known. His composition on erudite style, contemporary erudite style. The meaning of this piece is a prelude, Carioca prelude.
Okay, let's move on to Akira Satake. And Akira is playing looks like it's a standard bluegrass banjo. Is that right?
Right.
That's, yet, Akira, what did you start out playing banjo?
Yeah, well, I was playing guitar and mandolin and folk music, and one day my brother brought back banjo and I started to play banjo. I started all the time, try to play all the time, and immediately I heard flattened sclags. So, and that was world music for me. That, you know, I was in Japan, and the bluegrass music or Appalachian music was so exotic. And
No problem, yeah. A lot of us feel that way.
well, especially you.
Yeah, most especially. What's really interesting about Akira's playing is and Akira is doing his own compositions for the most part, and they show very strong influences of world music, music from different traditions, synthesized into what he uses is occasionally, and you'll hear sections of tunes make use of very straight-ahead bluegrass techniques, forward rolls, backward rolls. Isn't that right?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, they have those. Yet, because of the nature of bluegrass, you can't fit everything, especially when he's using much more sophisticated chords and different kinds of melodies and so forth, which don't necessarily fit into the bluegrass construction. So you're going to hear him go in and out. There's some things, at least I heard, where you go in and out of playing bluegrass style and into an expanded fingering, right hand. Is there something that you can play that would, one of your compositions that would show? I hope.
Okay. All right. This is when I was listening to some South Indian folk music. A friend of mine brought back from India, and beginning was very nice, happy, bouncy Indian rhythm. So when I listening to that, and I try to, play something like that. It's always I start listening to some interesting stuff and try to imitate a little bit. Then after that, forget about original and move into my composition. And beginning was like this. And then, well, a process of writing, I move into some Middle Eastern melody. Also, I love to listen to Middle Eastern music. And also my roots is I grew up in Japan, so there's some Japanese influence too. And just make those things, put in the grinder and mix it up. Hank was saying there is some bluegrass influence, and if I say most obvious bluegrass influence, it's a Foggy Mountain Breakdown almost.
That's as bluegrass as it gets, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
right.
pretty bluegrass.
Yeah, it's very bluegrass.
Now, do you find that you're adapting the different influences that you have to the banjo, or are you trying to get the banjo to fit into the music or is it a little of both?
Yeah, I guess a little of both. And most of the time I don't really think about it. And the banjo itself is such a beautiful instrument, just like any other instruments. And bluegrass style of banjo is just one way of using banjo. And the banjo is supposed to have a more possibility. And all the time, claw hammer style, they are also doing one other possibility. And I don't have those, a lot of technique, but in the future I like to use banjo as just an instrument who any possibility of sound come out from banjo. That'll be my dream.
Good idea. stay tuned. We're waiting. Thank you. We'll be back to you.
Thank you.
Maybe. Mangara. I hope folks have seen Mangara playing already. But would you tell us a little bit about the instrument that you play?
Sure. How about that? This is the original instrument for the Africa. This I made my father have it. So one day my father met me, I take his instrument and play.
So your father made this instrument?
Yeah.
It's out of a gourd.
Yeah. He said, "Abu, what do you want to do?" I said, "My father, I want to teach. When I know this one, I'm going to do what you want to do." He said, "Sure." I said, "Yes." So the time where I get the 10 years, you teach me the history. Before I'm getting the 10 years, you don't want to teach me. So the instrument, before I'm 7 years, I take the instrument I'm going to play. Little. The time where I get the 10 years, and then they put me in the class, the history.
So you had the instrument first, and then you had to grow up in order to be able to play.
Yeah. The first day when my father met me, which kind of instrument I'm playing, he made me I gotta play this instrument. Iti kanjangabi kombenjunga. Kanjangabi shagani anakasa sainge mangara. Shagani dalante madimaro. Ado modeli maro. Denchen tuge madimaro. Khali kumukutura banna. Kanjangabi kurakanya tabu lunga te kodon. Adi kusantage kagale lukuto kumera. Ido nangu lakota, ido nangu magalle, ido sogalle, ido soga magalle. Iti pinne jalo finge, jogiri soasi, fanjogi na kare. Ida ninya maganye shogoni te nunga te kotono. Ati ten to ni nya maka itan ten to kombe di nya maka anden to ni jangke jiba baringke shamban nangkabu shambang kamu nangkamu na kunda debe kana bono akana debi kanna trindi debe kana asiro Ahana de Vikan Landrindi. Debi dari haku. Aro dema dari haku. Sharake jorake. Kuruata kuruagi. Wagi remme gangaringe. Wagi remme kura barage. Kujungumu babalo kumute dumulle. Mulle ko kwe akoda. Owa saka nyana. Mulle ganto owa saka nyana. Shimbara kulle dibasi. Wagilo jibata ganto ngasiki. Kanjanga mbraganya tabu luma de goto. Adi kusantege gagali lu kutok mera. Wagwa sinunga na kota wachi sikindo tawar. Wagwa sinumballa wachi budan to nchamarne. Oti jisikindo ndo jibudan to nchamarinna na. Shamano waginte karinte nuari.
What's interesting, Margara, would you hold up what he's using? He's using basically 2 picks on the index and middle, and nothing on the thumb. So, and you're picking with these 2. So it's basically these are finger picks, and in some ways they're closer. In fact, I remember some years ago being turned on one of the techniques that clawhammer players use of striking the strings. I remember the technique of taping on a plastic fingernail to one's hands. Someone introduced me to, I can't remember who, it was, Ray Alden, of course. It was Ray Alden who started that process. So and it's interesting, you can't invent anything new. And so what Mangara is playing with, and do you make these yourself?
Yeah, I make them myself.
And they're made out of?
Yeah.
What are they made out of?
This is leather.
It's made out of, oh, these are really nice. These are, in fact, leather and bone? Is this bone?
Yes, that's bone.
So there. These are really...
Yeah.
And so do you play, when you play on the strings, do you hit the strings or do you also...
Yeah, I'm going to hit the gun down set. This is going to play the down set. This is going to take these 2 upper set here. What the all work is this 3 finger here,
right.
Set here. This one we're going to change for the string. This 3 finger work here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's where all of the fretting is done. Of course, there's no frets. They call it frettings. But, so, and once again, something that would drive most banjo players crazy. You're playing your instrument, you're hearing this buzzing. You say, where is that buzzing coming from? You lose your mind. And yet, here, that's a preferred sound. In fact, not only is there, what is this called? Does this have a name? Nenyame? Nenyame. And so the buzz is up here. Right. And also, I'm noticing, and this must be your bracelets.
Yeah.
When you are playing, and they're also, so it's not ornamental. Everything is functional in terms of all these other sounds actually are adding to the aesthetic of the music. And what you did is only is that a small part of a larger?
Yeah.
So these are used to accompany stories, and these are histories, and
the singular history, a singular now, that's Long King, is Namuri Kanjangali, more than 2,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So these are histories of, right. So much the same way, the banjo, traditionally, at least, and let's use an American example, accompanying, let's say, child ballads, or the longer, the more archaic songs. So it's the same thing, the function is there to really bring the story forward. not necessarily as a soloing instrument. So.
This I'm playing the nail for the Baudo Kumbaslam as nail.
Yeah.
The one woman, he has man married 10 years, never get the child.
Oh, okay. This is an interesting story. It's sort of about. Well, is it a long story?
No,
Yeah. Oh, okay. It's over 900 years, and I don't want to keep everyone here.
This is a long story for the Baudo Kumbaslamara Kumba. He make the 10 years with the house man, he never get the son. 1 year, God help him, he get the one boy. His name is Baudo Kumbaslam. It's a long story. That's why I get a singer.
Thank you, my God. I'm going to play a piece that I played last night for the Meltdown. It's called doina, and it comes from a shared tradition in Eastern Europe. Jewish musicians called klezmorim would travel in Eastern Europe, and the form is actually most popular, is best known in the Romanian, among Romanian gypsies. The banjo, actually there is a very real historic precedent for the playing of the tenor banjo in Jewish music ensembles from Eastern Europe. After emigration to this country, the influence of American popular music on immigrant music at the turn of the century was pretty profound. So you start actually seeing banjos being played in otherwise quote-unquote traditional ensembles by the early 1920s. So this particular piece, which is very free meter, free form, usually makes use of what's called a call and response. That is, a voice would put out a particular series of phrase and then it would be answered back. And it's really was usually played on instruments like fiddle or clarinet or hammered dulcimer or flute. But here what I've done is I've transcribed it from all of those instruments onto the tenor.
Better than last night.
Better than, thank you. I believe that is all we have time for. On behalf of Rogerio Santos, Akira Sateka, and Mangata, and Jody Stecker, I'm Hank Sapoznik. Thank you very much, and on to the next workshop.